Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So just a few hours back, Bill Ackman announced that he was going to do a press release, and now we know what that press release was about. It is that Pershing Square Tontine Holdings has confirmed discussions to acquire 10% of the ordinary shares of Universal Music Group, UMG, for approximately $4 billion, representing an enterprise value of 35 billion euros. So that's approximately 42 billion dollars. And this deal is quite interesting because it's not really a merger as you would see with SPACs. There's no merging of a private company to bring it to the public markets. It's more of a company that was already going to be listed, and Pershing Square Tontine Holdings is kind of getting 10% of that company. So it's a bit of a different deal. And we'll go through the structure of the deal, what exactly PSTH shareholders are getting, and what are my thoughts about this company, because I see this as a bit different than I think what it seems on the surface. And I'll be discussing that later. So let's go through the deal first. PSTH to distribute the acquired UMG shares to PSTH shareholders later this year. So later this year being in September, because that is when Vivendi, which is the parent company of Universal Music Group, had intended on listing the business. So I guess around September is when we'll start seeing the this portion of the deal actually making sense and a lot more clarity there. And PSTH should remain a publicly traded company with 1.5 billion of cash after the distribution of UMG shares, and to seek new business combination partner. So they're saying that there's still the possibility of a SPAC merger. And I'd mentioned this in a previous video where I thought that, with SPACs, the larger it is, it's not always a benefit, since a large SPAC would require a large target. And frankly, the universe of possible targets shrinks as the amount increases. So I think that's kind of what's happening here. With 1.5 billion, they have a lot more flexibility to go and seek a smaller business in a way to merge with and bring to the public markets. So that is PSTH, and Pershing Square Capital Management has formed Pershing Square SPARC SPARC Holdings, and this is very interesting. This is something I definitely think is different, and I'll be discussing that more once we go through the first deal, which is the UMG deal. And SPARC to distribute transferable rights to purchase shares in SPARC to PSTH shareholders. Right. So let's see what exactly the proposed transaction is and what do Pershing Square Tontine Holding shareholders get. It's such a mouthful, like Pershing Square Tontine Holdings, Pershing Square, Pershing. But yeah, the first is that out of the total value of the PSTH share, 14.75 will be going into the UMG deal. So out of the total $20, the remaining 5.25 in cash per share will be allocated to PSTH RemainCo, which is kind of the amount that is there after. And one transferable 5-year right of a SPAR, special purpose acquisition right, of Pershing Square SPARC Holding, which is expected to trade on the New York Stock Exchange. So we'll go through all of that in a lot more detail. Right. So the deal with UMG is not a traditional SPAC deal. And what's happening exactly is that out of the 4 billion that was accumulated, 2.5 billion is going into the deal from the side of PSTH, the Pershing Square Tontine Holdings, and the remaining 1.6 billion is coming from the forward purchase agreements that I had mentioned quite a bit in previous videos throughout my channel. So we can see that over here under sources and uses. PSTH expects to fund the transaction with cash held in its trust account from its IPO, 4 billion plus interest, and approximately 1.6 billion in additional funds from the exercise of its forward purchase agreements with Pershing Square funds and affiliates. So that's exactly what's happening. So out of the 4 billion, 2.5 billion is being used here, and an additional 1.6 billion is coming from the forward purchase agreements, which is kind of around the same amount that you would have seen when he sold out of Starbucks and trimmed all the other positions in the portfolio. That kind of comes to around this much, 1.6 billion or so. After that, if we scroll down, we see that PSTH remained to pursue another business combination following the proposed transaction. So out of the 4 billion that was there in Pershing Square Tontine Holdings, 2.5 is allocated towards the deal with Universal Music Group, and the 1.5 billion that's remaining will stay in Pershing Square Tontine Holdings. And there will be an additional 1.9 billion from the forward purchase agreements that could be added to Pershing Square Tontine Holdings. So we basically still have a possibility of around anywhere from 1.5 billion to around 2.9 billion in Pershing Square Tontine Holdings for them to go out and find another company to merge with. However, the fact that it will no longer be treated as a SPAC under NYSE listing rules, I'm not sure how that would affect the company. And yeah, I hope Bill Ackman actually gets into that a lot more, because would they have an issue when it comes to merging with another company? I'm not sure. If you know something more about that, please do let me know in the comments below. So the part of this deal that I found the most interesting was the formation of SPARC, which is the Special Purpose Acquisition Rights Company. And the way I see this new company, this formed entity, is almost like float. This may sound strange if you're not familiar with Bill Ackman's history and kind of how he's always looked up to Warren Buffett, but something that, so a little bit of history here is that Berkshire Hathaway has been largely successful because of the way that Warren Buffett has set up the company, and how by acquiring the insurance companies early on, he was able to use the float that was collected, the premiums that were collected from the insurance company, and he was able to invest that into securities and get high returns on capital. Now, Ackman is not getting into insurance companies, but him raising SPACs and the special purpose acquisition rights company, or SPACs, whatever it is, it's basically him raising free money and going out into the private markets to find deals. And he could either, like we saw with the UMG deal, he could get an allocation into a deal that was already going to happen, or he could bring a company to the public markets from the private markets and form a deal in that sort of way. This amount that we're seeing, if we scroll down, we can actually see, we can get a better idea about this, is that SPARC will raise 5.6 billion in cash, and there's an additional minimum investment of 1 billion up to 5 billion. So what this tells me is that Pershing Square Holdings will basically have anywhere between 6.6 billion up to 10.6 billion as float. So it's kind of funds that they can use in a discretionary manner. And it's not like they have to use all this money into one transaction, right? They could always raise another company, another SPAC, do something like that. Or if they do find an opportunity that seems really great, they could put all the money into that one transaction. That's pretty much it. But the formation of these separate SPACs or separate companies kind of seems a bit like float to me. Let me know your thoughts about this. I haven't heard this sort of theory from a lot of other places, but this is kind of how I see the way that Ackman is structuring this entire everything that he's doing. He's creatively using SPACs in order to raise cash and invest it in a manner that he sees is very good, and he's investing into companies that have a dominant position in their field and they're predictable, strong companies. With the raising of these SPACs, there is almost no downside, since the money is not owed to anyone. It's not really debt. It's money that's been raised. And we saw that they have up to 5 years with a possible extension. So this is really like long-term float, and it's money that they kind of control and they can use at their discretion, however they see fit. So it's very interesting what's happening. And I'd be really interested to know if someone else has a different perspective on this, or how they exactly see the purpose behind all the companies that Ackman is starting up to raise cash. Let me know if you've got any different thoughts. If you're a Pershing Square Tontine Holdings shareholder or a Pershing Square shareholder, do let me know. I personally am a Pershing Square Holdings shareholder, and I'm not invested in Pershing Square Tontine Holdings. The Pershing Square Holdings Fund just makes a lot more sense for me, since the forward purchase agreements always give you that exposure towards whatever sort of SPAC that Ackman is spawning through his company, and also the portfolio trades at a discount to net asset value, but it has traded at a discount to net asset value for some time now. But also you get a lot of money returned because of the buybacks that are in place from Pershing Square Holdings. So it just seems like a better value proposition to me, as opposed to being invested in the SPAC. I don't think that we'll see a major impact, like upside to the deal so soon. I think it'll take a few months, at least. I think by September is when we'll finally see how the market is reacting to UMG as a company, because that is when it'll be listed. And yeah, I think Pershing Square Tontine shareholders will do quite well, and we really don't have too much insight as to UMG right now, but I think that'll definitely change over the coming months. Yeah, let me know your thoughts about this. Just wanted to share this quick update about the deal. And yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day.